All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Go With The Flow. I'm your host, Folarin Okulaja, here with another episode that I'm very, very, very excited for. We have just been chatting for the last 25 minutes, and I see the chemistry's already there. We might have to start our own podcast, but I'm here with David Levine. And for people who don't know, they're going to be like, who is this David Levine guy? Why is he on Go With The Flow? And I will let you give your own full intro and everything. But I'm gonna start with a shout out to my friend Joelle. So shout out Joelle. Maybe like a month and a half ago, she sends a text to me and she's like, "Oh, there's this comedy show that goes on, but it's in different locations all over the city." In my mind, I wasn't sold. I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's all these comedy clubs in the city that are historic. Why would I want to go to anywhere else but there to watch comedy?" But you know me, I like trying new things, gave it a chance. She said the name was Underground Overground Comedy. And we went to the show. It was in a gym. Showed up there. Right when we showed up, there was a line down the block. So I was like, okay, this is kind of hot. This is something people want to see. Walk in. They've cleared out the gym. It's an intimate setting. A great comedy show happens. Have a great time. Meet great people. Met David over here, who's one of the two co-founders, and that is what led to this right here. So, welcome to the show, David.
That was a great introduction. No nothing. So, yeah, I guess I could start. My name's David Levine. I'm born and raised in New York City, and I've been producing pop-up comedy shows for about 2 years now. April of 2021, done over about 110 shows.
110. You've answered one of the questions I was going to ask because it was 75 shows as of October of 2022. I did all my research, but
Wow.
Sorry, carry on.
How did you find that number?
There's actually a lot of articles about about Underground Overground online.
Oh wow, yeah. So that adds up, and as we continue to expand, we're doing shows more and more frequently. To now we're at the point where we're doing about 6 shows a month, I would say.
6 a month. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And so just to preface, you've been featured. When I say you, I'm going to mean Underground
yeah.
Overground. And also because David has a co-founder. Shout
Yeah.
out Ethan. How do I pronounce his last name?
Mansoor.
Ethan Mansour. Shout out to you.
Yes.
But Underground Overground has been featured in People Magazine, The New Yorker, The New York Post, Time Out Magazine. Any I'm forgetting?
And Up Rocks.
And Up Rocks. There
Yes.
you go. And so just tell the people generally what is Underground Overground. Because again, did a lot of research, read your description of it, but I think it would be helpful to get the explanation from you.
Yeah, so we produce pop-up comedy shows in unique small businesses all over New York City. That will change one day. We'll be all over, but we'll go into your typical small businesses like laundromats, candy stores. Because the thing is, a lot of these retail spaces, they close at 7 p.m. What are they doing? We offer them the idea if we come in after hours from 7 to 11, we don't interrupt your normal day. Why not make a few extra bucks, get some young eyeballs in there, and we're looking for a certain thing. Every time we go to a venue, we're looking for low ceilings and pack it together. How can we make it intimate like a comedy club? And just through word of mouth and consistency, we've been able to convince more and more venues. And as our social media following has grown, we're able to get in these spaces.
And that's one thing that we will get into is the way that you do get people to show up, only marketing through Instagram and all that. But it's funny because what you just touched on, there's this website and I'm forgetting the name right now, but it's one where you're allowed to book venues. Pure Space. Thank you. I like this is good. Pure Space. One of my friends had a birthday party there. It was like it had a birthday party through there in an art studio. And I was like, how did you get to rent out the space? And he was like, oh, Pure Space.
Yeah.
They are able to rent out different venues all over the city. For my birthday party, actually, birthday's on the 5th. Party's
How old
on
are you?
the 23.
Yeah, I just turned 25.
Damn, you're an old man. No,
Yeah, I know.
But the party was on the 8th.
Okay.
I actually rented out a clothing store. And then after hours, it cleared out, got to bring in DJ speakers, set up a bar, and then just had a party there.
Underutilized retail space. Every year, every few months, I'm adding a new keyword like underutilized. I never used that in our first pitch, but underutilized retail space. And yeah, these owners, they're the ones that are creative. It depends. So when we first started, the way I knew we would get a venue or not is, this is 2021. If the owner was wearing a mask when I walked in, I knew there was no chance to say yes. And then, but if they weren't wearing a mask, and I was like, okay, they'll be more open. They're creative, and you'll be surprised how many people being in New York City have like comedy aspirate. Like an owner's like, oh, I used to do a show. I went to these shows, so they're connected to the arts.
Got it. And so a little bit about yourself. You born and raised in New York City.
Yeah.
You met Ethan when you played chess together back in the day. I did my research.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised. I do my due diligence. And you went to Syracuse University where you started doing comedy.
Yes.
What was your comedic inspiration? What made you want to get into doing comedy?
Oh, this is great. So I started stand-up comedy actually my senior year of high school. I went to school in the Upper West at Columbia Prep. And then I went to Syracuse. And I did shows here and there throughout Syracuse. What got me started? Honestly, it was like Eddie Murphy Delirious.
Great special.
Great special that I watched with my family when I was 13, 14. Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have been watching that with your
Should've-
family as a
yeah.
13, 14-year-old.
I have a crazy aunt, my dad's sister. So I watched it with her. And then I remember crying of laughter. And it's funny. I read Kevin Hart's book, and Delirious would inspired him too.
What's the name of that book? I also read that book.
It's what he's holding dogs.
Yes.
I can't make
yes.
this up.
I can't
think.
make this up. That's the one. Good book. Good book.
I
Inspiring.
love reading. Was that an autobiography or biography? What's the difference?
I think auto's when you write it yourself.
I read
Biography,
it.
So I guess it was an autobiography.
I read a ton of autobiographies about comics, and yeah, Delirious inspired him too. And I had the comedy bug, and then he was probably my main inspiration. But my humor was more quick one-liners and just telling facts about my family.
Okay. And so you start of COVID, you saw that most of the comedy clubs were shut down in New York City.
Mhm.
You were looking for, I think you or Ethan that attended a comedy show in a hotel lobby.
That was Ethan.
Ethan attends a comedy show in a hotel lobby, thinks about this idea of, oh, how do we get comedy going in this time when comedy clubs are shut down?
It wasn't even that big of a thought. It was he saw Sam Morril at the Wilson, Sam Morril and Phil Hanley, and it was Sam Morril put out a special, like a rooftop special. He was just doing different, and we were like, he was like, how can I get Sam Morril to come to my friend's rooftop and do a show? It was just one show for family and friends, because nothing was going on. And then, should I get right into the story about Sam, how we got started?
Yeah, yes, please.
They're crazy. So he sees Sam Morril. I go see Sam Morril a week later because he's doing every Tuesday at the Wilson. And I go up to Sam after, and he says, just call my agent. And I have two friends. I have my friend Eric Rosebloom, Sugarman, that's his nickname,
Shout out Sugarman.
who had a rooftop. And then I tore my ACL in high school, and I had a trainer my physical therapist who opened a gym, who had a space because he opened a gym during the pandemic. It was empty. So we had these two spaces. I call Sam Morril's agent, and they're not really interested. They're like, because, COVID was starting to wind. The comedy clubs are opening up a couple weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew Sam Morril was best friends with this guy named Mark Norman, who's another big comic.
That name I know. Yep.
So I told Sam Morril's agent that I booked Mark Norman for $500. And I told Mark Norman's agent I booked Sam Morril for $500. and then we just had them all booked, those two comics. And the deal was if we booked them twice, booked Mark Norman twice, we'll get that rate. So we had 3 shows in a span of a week. The 6th, the 9th, and the 12th, I believe. And we had to find a way to... And it was just for family and friends. Wait,
is this the rooftop or is this the gym?
And when gym, rooftop, gym.
Okay, gym, rooftop, gym. What was that initial traction like for those first 3 shows? Did people show up? Did they not show up? How were you feeling after those happened?
I was worried. But the thing is, those shows with COVID-friendly policies, it was just 25 people, 25, 30 people in a space. That could usually fit 70. So really just me being from New York and Ethan being from New York were childhood friends that you nailed. But we went to different high schools.
Okay.
So we had different friend groups, and through word of mouth, then since nothing was going on, we were able to fill those up.
Okay.
But since they went well, that's how it started to spiral.
And I love it because again, I didn't tell you the questions beforehand, but naturally, it's leading kind of into my next questions. And so, after you did those first 3 shows, did you know that you had something that could then scale? Or what was the general sentiment like internally? And was it like, okay, we've done these 3 shows, let's shut it down? Or did you think, okay, this kind of worked out well, let's see how big we can take this?
So yeah, going back to that time, I was still graduating school. I was working remote. I mean, I was home. So my senior year, like everyone our age, COVID happened junior year, second semester junior for me. And instead of going back to campus, my senior year, I stayed home.
Okay.
And then, so I'm trying to apply for jobs at these. I wanted to go to a comedy agency, UTA, CA, WME. They were not hiring me. One, because they weren't really hiring, and 2, I'm not a good candidate. But my thoughts was when we book these comics, if I can impress someone like Mark Norman who's at UTA, maybe you can put a good word to the agent and I can get a job.
Uh-huh.
So that was the only inclination towards like an angle, but it was never doing it. And then we did 3 shows. We're like, let's have fun. Let's do one more. We're doing them once every 2 weeks. And then we had that point where we hit the summer. We're like, are we gonna let's just do this for the summer? I don't have a job. Let's just do this for the summer. And during this time, I'm dog walking. I have a whole dog walking
Okay,
business.
nice.
Ethan's in pre-med, so he's like, and we were gonna figure. And he was doing part-time at dental offices, just doing the
Mhm.
desk. Let's just go through the summer and see how it goes. But one thing that I always laugh about is we've always bought the equipment, like the speakers. We didn't have, so we had to rent these speakers. And if you go to B&H Dairy, no, that's the food spot. B&H Photo,
Okay.
they have a 30-day return policy. So we would buy like $900 worth of speakers, but we marked it on the calendar. Okay, we buy it on the we're gonna return it by this. So we did like a few returns,
Uh-huh.
and then we finally bought it, and we were like, okay, we have something. So we would buy equipment with the intention to return it in 29 days.
Uh-huh.
And then after the summer, we realized, okay, we may have something.
And so then after how many 30-day sessions did you eventually not return it after that?
Probably 2 or 3.
Okay, fair enough.
Because then we had to also upgrade the equipment. We had these quiet speakers, And we about 2 or 3.
And one of the things that I am always most fascinated with is, regardless of the idea, is kind of the actual going from inception of the idea to actually making it happen. How hard was that to actually materialize, or did things sort of just fall into place when you guys knew it was something that you were trying to put in place?
There was a few moments here, and the reason why I think we've been successful is we thought about it completely backwards. Even our name, Underground Overground Comedy, we didn't have we never really put much thought into it. The reason for that name is it was illegal technically because we were doing larger gatherings in spaces where you weren't supposed to, but we were popping up on your rooftop and popping up at your popular place near you, Underground Overground.
Okay.
If we thought about the name, we would still not have a name today. And we didn't care about our money. Thought was like also when we first started, like, let's just do this. Let's not lose money. I don't care about making money.
Mhm.
Let's just not get burnt.
Let's break even. Yeah.
Let's break even. And that's been our process has never been about making money. Like I believe by the mindset. I think I heard on Shark Tank. If you're the best at what you do, even if you're playing chess, the money will come. So that's been the mentality from the beginning. Just being the absolute, try to make best. And me being a comic and going to a lot of shows beforehand, I sort of had a sense, and Ethan as well, of what works at a club and what doesn't. I can go into that too.
Which is real quick,
Yeah.
because again, you just touched about you being a comic.
Mhm.
I read again in all my.
I'm retired now.
Okay. That's what I was gonna get at, because I think I read
Yeah.
somewhere that initially, and this is what you're getting at earlier, is you had an angle. If you do well in front of these stand-ups, they might recommend you, whatever.
Yeah.
And so you guys would both do a set at each of the initial shows.
Yeah, just because we didn't know any comics, we were the hosts.
Okay.
Or I would do my 5-minute set in the beginning. But then
Okay.
I realized, first of all, being a comic, God bless them, it's a different part of your brain to handle, like, for a joke not to work, to get up and get up and get up. Like, I felt like if I did 10 bad shows in a row, which would happen in college or doing mics, it affects you mentally.
Yeah.
So to be able to organize a show and organize a set and organize a show, there's so many small things that go into it. I think it's two different parts of the brain. So I decided I'm gonna focus on the behind the scenes. And also, I used to make the joke is if I would go up in the beginning and bomb, I don't care if Dave Chappelle came and had a great set. I'm in my head saying this show sucked.
Yeah.
So trying to separate myself from the show so I can analyze, was this good? Why was it good? What can we do to make it better? I had to remove myself.
Okay. And after, again, first few shows, you decided you want to keep doing it. What would you say your initial bar for success was, and how has that developed and changed over time? Because you said initially you were just trying to break even.
Yeah.
I think when you realize you have something special, you're like, oh, how much money can we actually make? How has your thought about what you had, how has that developed over time?
Yeah. I think the great thing about comedy, it's pretty easy, I think, to tell how the experience. Are people laughing? And how loud's that laughter? We've had some rough shows. I'm not one to hide, but I treat every show still like it's life or death, because I want people to have the best time of their life. That's the mindset. So there's no room for error. So during the shows, I'm so stressed. Now, in terms of success, it's still, I think, once you start thinking about the money, we can talk about other angles of how the show makes money, but it's just think about how can I make the show as good as possible. Like, for example, when we do shows at a candy store, or we have a big show, we're paying for $600 worth of candy. We don't need to go above and beyond and buy $600 worth of candy. We just feel like if we add that element and it's on people's seat when they walk in, holy shit. And that always going for that holy shit.
Yeah.
And that's been our priority. And that's why more doors have opened and we've been able to pull off bigger venues and sell more tickets.
Who was or which venue was the first one to say yes to you that got you even more excited? And how many no's before you got the first big yes?
I get no's all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's funny because real quick, there's a lot, even when I was reading the story, there's so many similarities between what you guys are doing versus what I think I'm trying to do in podcasting also, between trying to get different guests on, having them all say no, you're gonna get many big no's before you get the first yes, just having to be persistent, doing it because you love it, not because you're trying to make money. A lot of different similarities, but sorry.
And the worst thing is, is what's worse than a maybe? Like I'll think about it. Or they don't
yes.
respond.
I was like, what is worse than maybe? Nothing. But maybe, maybe that's the worst thing. Yeah.
I'd rather a venue tell me I'm not interested.
Yes.
Because I can't stand when we're messaging a venue. I'm not gonna share, but if they don't respond or say, "Well, think about it," and I have to follow up. And
nothing wrong following, because I don't mind following up. But if you lead me on for way too long, then it gets annoying.
Exactly.
Just give me. I think people assume that a no will hurt your feelings or whatever way more than it does. I like the no, so I could just move on.
Yeah. And then our mindset, until we get a fuck no, we're gonna be following up. So, what was the other part?
Question was, how many no's to the first yes? Who was the first venue that really got you?
First venue that's exciting is La Laundry, and that's early on, the laundromat, because that was the first real small business. We were doing a rooftop and a gym, but both, let's call it family friend connection, where we had the inn and wasn't really as much convincing.
Yeah.
La Laundry is a random business owner. This guy, I believe he was from Vietnam, so there was no language barrier, but just like a different, it's just dealing in a small business. Come here, he opens a laundromat. They were also a flower shop. And the way this guy negotiated was the most strict man in the world. No budging. As soon as you gave him the money, he was the most drunk at the show. Not the most drunk, but he would have a great time. So shout out Pranay. He would have a blast at the shows. And for him to let us in, and I think it was a time during the pandemic where retail was still, now they're doing a lot better. Where they, having the extra eyeballs in the press helped them too. So Lala Laundry was the big one because it was a legit small business. It was quirky. Going into a laundromat at 10 p.m.
Yeah, I don't go to laundromats, period.
Yeah,
Thankfully, I have one in my building, yeah.
And it felt very New York. How many no's until yes? I can tell a story about Katz's in a sense.
Oh, no, we'll get to Katz. So,
Okay.
yeah, hold on. Yeah, of course, I got questions about Katz. Yeah.
The first no's, it's just there's so many small ones. I don't think it was like a big no. Like, it's just, trying to find venues. And the next big yes, though, I would say, in terms of like an iconic institution, was Economy Candy Store.
Am I just not, I've only lived in New York for 1 year, so I must not know what the iconic institutions are, but I've never heard of Economy Candy.
It's the oldest candy store in New York City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's Dylan's Candy Bar, but there's like, you never heard of Dylan's Candy Bar?
I've never heard of Dylan's Candy Bar.
What? That's like a chain all over the world. That's huge. Okay.
Oops.
You got some research. But yeah, besides that, Economy Candy is the oldest New York City candy store.
Okay.
Been around since the early 1930? No, 1900. I think I should know the date. We do trivia all the time internally just to stay sharp, but they were the first people to say yes, and that put us on the map. That was like the first show where we said where we just did a ticket sale drop, and they sold out immediately.
Wow. Okay. And so you've done shows in laundromats, gyms, barbershops, recording studios, tattoo parlors, to name a few, excluding Katz yet. Don't get to Katz. And I'm going to get to Katz. Of all the different venues that you've done shows in, do any stand out to you as your favorite, the most unbelievable? Just which type of venue stands out to you?
I don't want to select it, but I am. I'm pretty outspoken. I love all the venues we work with. My personal favorite is Astor Place Hairstylist.
Okay.
It is right on Astor Place, 2 Astor Place. It's another, I feel, iconic institution. Have you heard of them?
That one I actually have. I think I only found that one. I think I found out about because when I moved to the city and I was trying to find a barbershop.
Yeah.
I think that name came up.
I think Dave Chappelle gets his cut there too.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. And so he's on there. I think they just posted him on their Instagram.
You saw that
very
too,
recently. Yeah.
I texted the owner, like, you couldn't spread the word, but you can't bother him like that. But that place, because when you walk, something about walking down the steps, it's sort of like where it has that speakeasy vibe.
Yeah.
And there's like the marble, the black and white checkered floor, low ceilings, and it's like one of the first venues too where we can hold more than 100 people. And the way we could set it up, we can sort of have like a back room where they can come out onto a stage like through a curtain, and it sort of feels very production like.
Yeah.
That and just the people who work there, the history there. That's my favorite venue.
Okay. And so now to what I presume you would also agree is the biggest show that you've done yet is Katz's Deli,
Absolutely.
which for anyone who does not live in New York, is not from New York, is one of the most iconic storied restaurants in the city.
Mhm.
It's been around for over 100 years. It's funny because I only found out about it. I've lived in the city for just over a year now, but
Mhm.
like 3, 4 months ago at work, someone at work just kind of like took us all out to lunch. I was like, "Where are we going?" He said, "Katz's Deli." I said, "That sounds weird, but okay." But you go there, you
Oh
see
yeah.
all
Yeah.
you first you eat the pastrami sandwich, which is amazing.
Yep.
You see all the faces on the wall. It was the middle of the day, and there was still a line outside the door.
Yeah.
And then you start to bring it up, and then you just learn about how storied of a franchise it is in New York City. And so you guys held a comedy show there. I I'm curious about what initially made you think was even possible.
Mhm.
And then this is another one where I'm just like, what type of follow-up was necessary before you eventually got that yes?
That whole process. Well, Katz is. What's funny you say that you ate it for lunch. I don't know how people can eat a pastrami sandwich and go to work after. Like one thing when we touch about how that show went is like there was a reason why the food came after the show.
Mhm.
So the way the Katz process started was there's the famous movie Harry Met Sally. Have you heard of that movie?
I have. I like this. I'll keep this up. Keep
Yeah.
this up. Because there's one of my favorite sayings is common knowledge is not common, or is it common sense is not common? Something about
Yeah.
how what you think is common basically isn't common. So keep this up. Keep me on my toes. I want to see if I actually know the things I should know.
Yeah. So Harry Met Sally, there's that iconic scene. And just going there, what's funny is I actually went there for the first time. Could have went there when I was really young, but my visit was actually when I was in 10th grade in high school. We did a field trip there. We did that in like the Tennant Museum across the street. It's like a history of New York class.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we just walked in. We always had the sense because once again, I have this problem now. I actually just can't walk around and relax when I'm walking the city. I'm always looking at like I'm twisting my neck looking at venues. Can this be a venue? Can this be a
Could you
space?
do it right here in this space?
Might be a bit tight for us now, but low ceilings and I think it's just a little bit too thin. But
Yeah.
no, I walk in and I'm always looking. I walk in because you never know which place has a hidden basement, a rooftop. They have a space in the back. So Katz's I knew from a layout perspective, it's a rectangle. It will work. The first person we asked was I walked in. It's where you pay actually when you come out. One of the spots if you're paying cash, I believe. I said, "Hey, who can I speak to?" Then I asked the cutter, and then I sent like 2 or 3 cold emails, and then someone got back to me. I had a phone call. I'm going through everything. I had a phone call with her February 2022.
Who's her?
I don't remember the name
Okay.
because she's the one I had the intro call, and then she connected me with.
Okay.
And then a guy named David Mannheim, shout out David Mannheim, who had a YouTube series called The Last Jewish Waiter at Katz's. And I never forget on the phone call, he said, "Listen, there's dreamers like us, and then there's owners. So I'm gonna pitch him. I'm gonna tell him I really like you, and he does like special events and catering for them. And then I'll connect you with Jake. Jake Dell is now the 4th generation owner at Katz's, and we just had a meeting with him. And I remember the 2 areas where we impressed him was one we really thought it through. We were going to Katz's to eat all the time. We knew the square footage of this place when we went to meet with him. Was we offered to pay cash for the venue, and he was like,
Okay.
"How the hell are you gonna get that cash?" It's because we sold all the tickets in advance, which was still nuts. And then he was like, "You guys have insurance?" And we had the insurance document ready because he was not expecting us to have a
Did you
certificate
already
of
have
insurance.
that? Interesting.
Because before we did Katz's, we did about 70 shows,
Okay.
so we sort of knew a little bit. We're still what questions are gonna be thrown away. What are the red flags? At the time, we were 24 years old. Think about it. The problem with these venues is we're 2 24-year-olds. I'm usually dressed in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. We both got crazy curly hair, me and Ethan, and we walk in. We say, "Hey, can we come in after hours?" Yes, there'll be alcohol involved. Yes, there'll be this. You can understand why they're like
Most people would be a little hesitant. Yeah.
and that's where the traditional press has helped us a ton
Okay.
because it's like, okay, if the New Yorker wrote about them, but it's funny for like traditional press. I'm not sure how much it sells tickets. It's more about legitimacy and for older people.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
And that is one thing that I was curious about is how soon until I forget which of the bigger articles came out
Yeah.
first. How soon until or before you got that first
Yeah.
or article or whatever.
The New York Post is the first one that came out that summer in
Okay.
August. which was the first legitimate. And like so, also back to traditional press. That's what I send my mom. That keeps my mom happy. Keep the parents off our back.
She's heard of People Magazine.
Yeah, exactly. So New York Post was the first idea, like, hey, we're popping in different places, and they liked it. 'Cause that's the thing. I really feel we started a month early before everything, before shows started happening. So we
Mhm.
sort of had that word of mouth head start on people.
Mhm.
But after the New York Post article was the first time we created the Google waitlist form for people to sign up that we don't know. So the first 10 to 12 shows we did was actually word of mouth, texting group chats. We have a 30-person. I know you can only have like 20 people in a group chat, and I would send out mass messages saying, "This is the details. No phones. Be respectful at the show."
And I love it because you keep touching on things that I want to touch on also with because like we've mentioned earlier, you guys only have a Instagram page. People have to DM the show. There's a Google form,
Yeah.
I think, in the
Link tree.
in the link tree where you have to go and you get on the wait list.
Yeah.
At a certain point, do you think that you need to maybe expand not the like infrastructure, but the way
Oh.
that you go about getting people to show
Absolutely.
up?
I'm doing this all manually right now, and it's a bit crazy. And now I look at it as busy work to clear my head. And so we want to make it like our whole big thing was we want the shows to be like, when it's a big show, it's going to be the hardest ticket to get to
Yeah.
without being exclusivity, without being snobby.
Okay.
Because we want, it's just like, I feel like that.
That's a hard balance to strike.
It's a hard
Yeah.
balance because
Yeah.
we're trying to get to everyone. But like when we did Katz's, 10,000 people sign up on the wait list
Wow.
alone
For how many tickets?
for 250.
Wow.
So
Did
that
it
was
sell out literally?
1 minute.
Wow.
1 minute. Eventbrite gave us problems. And we've had some Eventbrite. We had another issue with Eventbrite another time where we actually got hacked, the Eventbrite, where the cash out was someone else got in and sent it to their account.
Dang.
We almost had to get the police involved, but thankfully it was resolved. To the point where Ethan's the only one who sees the account, and I don't even go on it because I trust. It's just because what happens will be two of us, different phone or laptop, all going, and too many No, he's got it. It was terrifying.
I would think that you've gotten to the point now where, and again, I don't know if there's a target number of followers on Instagram or something you guys are shopping for, but I would think that you've gotten to a point where even if you expanded just past the Instagram and past the Google form, you are still able to keep that level of exclusivity
and personal touch. Is like I'm texting you, I'll text someone like, "Hey Matthew, you're now on the name of the wait list. Let me know if this works for you."
You could pay someone to do that, or have like an automated way to do that.
I think that's what we're trying to figure out through Instagram.
Okay.
So there's SMS services which we are working, which is soon to happen. It's just something about going through a DM, which is very personal, because you get spam text, you get spam email. Not really spam text. We've never sent an email.
No, wow.
We've never sold a ticket through an email. Just because personally I don't respond to them.
Fair.
and then once you go, you don't stop hearing from them.
Yeah.
And it sort of annoys you. So it's always through texting or DMing, and we're trying to figure out a way to do mass messaging through DMing.
Okay, got it. So eventually you will expand just past
That's the system we're trying to work out.
Okay. And so then going back to the Katz show, because that is even one where it was on the local news. There was a bunch of different articles about it. How did you go about picking which comedians would, and then actually specifically on this, because then I also want to focus on the comedians, because I haven't asked any questions about that, and I have a few about that.
Yeah.
But for this big show, the massive show, how did you go about trying to gather the comedians for that one specific show?
Well, the good thing about Katz is that it's legendary. So when comics heard it, they were like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I just want to go touch base on the pitch to how we got Katz's is Katz's, and similar to Economy Candy, which I mentioned earlier, is I'm trying to build out a calendar of annual comedy shows. Like when I pitched Owner Camp, like, this is not just one show. First, obviously the first show is a proof of concept, and you'll trust us, please. Yeah. But if this goes well, this is going to be the annual Katz Deli comedy show. Because look, I could do a show there once a month and it would sell out immediately, but it's a lot of work. But keeping it as the annual comedy show, my goal is in 5 to 10 years, this is the biggest show in comedy in New York. The annual Katz Deli comedy show that comics want to be on. That will be the most impossible ticket to get to. So I pitched him on that vision. And when I think anything like that, there was a Jewish connection there. But he had his bar mitzvah there. It was, but convincing comics. So we knew how special of a room it is. And that's how honestly, it wasn't as tough as you think. I'll give you an example about 2 comics, though. Comic Roy Wood Jr., one of the greatest. I met him in Central Park performing under a tree.
I know who he is, by the way. If you're gonna
White House correspondent dinner.
Yes, I know. Yes.
He's someone who I met him in Central Park. early pandemic, and I told him about it. He gave me his phone number right away. Nicest guy. And then I called it. I didn't want to bother him because I thought I messaged him about 2 shows in the past, and he just blew me off. He has a family. Wasn't interested. And then I called his agent, and his agent's like, "Yeah, I don't think so. He's working on a big project." So I said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna text Roy." As soon as I texted him about Katz, he said, "How the fuck did you pull this off? I'm in." And that's one of my great, amazing stories. And then the other comics, Mark Norman, Jessica Kirsten, we've had relationships with before. They loved it. And then there was David Tell, who performed in that show, who I think and personally is the greatest comic of all time.
David Tell, that's a name I don't know. I'm gonna write it
He's
down.
I feel disrespectful calling him comics. I just think he deserves all the flowers in the world.
David Tell.
But he always does the Late Show at the Comedy Cellar. He's the last spot on the Late Show.
Okay.
He did Bumping Mics with Jeff Ross on Netflix. That was probably his biggest thing. But he was tough to convince. He was giving me a maybe. I was at the Comedy Cellar where he performs at 2 a.m. the night before to make sure he was coming. He was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll see." And then a part of the pitch to these comics, besides paying them, was you're gonna get free Katz's Deli,
There you
pastrami
go.
sandwiches. But the way I convinced David Tell as well is the guy who works the door at Katz is the guy named Steve. Steve is the man. He's a guy wearing a Yankee hat out front, and he told me, "If I get Dave to show up, you'll give me some Katz, some food." And I said, "Done."
Done deal. That was the motivation you needed to make it happen.
So after the show, he actually pulled up, and I bought him and someone else Katz's 2 pastrami sandwiches.
And did the show go as well as you could have imagined? How did you, when you reflect back on it, how do you look at that night in perspective?
Incredible. It was the first show to ever happen, comedy show to ever happen at Katz's. So to have like a thing in history that's never been done before in New York.
No one can take that away from
I'm
you.
stealing Ethan's line for that one because that's what he said, and he always talks about like. But to have like no one's ever done that before.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. Like a Jewish deli and comedy. It's just there's a lot of synergy there. What was the question?
It was just looking back in perspective.
Looking back on it.
Yeah. I think you answered it.
But honestly, yeah, I wasn't. It was amazing,
Mhm.
heroic. The lights, fantastic. The show could have been better, and there's a reason for that. There's 250. We gave so many tickets to family and friends early access, and those are people who are there for us.
Mhm.
They're not comedy fans. I thought the laughter could have been better in there because we had the all-star lineup. Not that it wasn't a funny night, but I know what a banging crowd sounds like who's there for comedy versus no one older than 50 should have been there, respectfully.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm openly prejudiced towards age
that
at our
is
shows. There's some funny people above that age, but bringing friends, because we couldn't tell. They support us from the beginning. We wanted to give them an early chance to get tickets. Next year we are not doing that. Like I appreciate everyone came last year. This is open to the public fully, all 300 tickets, and I think it'll be way better.
So you are definitively going to do it again next year, and it's going to be an annual show.
Yeah, we're about to. Yes.
Okay.
I won't say that. Yes.
Well, yeah,
I won't say the date
Okay.
because we're gonna make a special announcement about that. But
or you could have break it here and go with the flow. That would be enough.
we're gonna be announcing soon. But yes, it'll be the goal is this. We have agreed for year 2, and the goal is to continue to make this the annual show.
Love that. Hopefully
in the fall.
Can my birthday present to Joelle be I get her a ticket to that?
Are you guys dating?
No, we're not dating. That's just a good friend.
I thought and she's not dating.
No, we're just a group of friends. Yeah. Shout out LJ. Shout out LJ. Shout out LJ. Shout out Rachel. Shout out Joelle. Yeah. No one is dating.
Okay.
It's funny because we did show up and we were like 4 black people. And that's remind me the comedian's
Sherrod
name.
Small.
Sherrod Small. Shout out to him. There's a very funny clip that he posted about us. And we were I think the 4 black people there. And so I think he just like people thought we were like couples. Everyone. It was very couple heavy, which I think is just like a comedy thing. Yeah. But back to what you were saying about the age thing. Younger crowd, people were laughing, comedians were great. It was just a very good time. But yeah, that is exciting to see. And after that show, do you now have other venues reaching out to you, trying to get you to
exactly
go
the
there?
big thing about Katz was it opened the doors, and I feel like all that press, the local press, people were now reaching out to us to come into their space.
Gotcha, which must be such a moment of like joy and feel like you've accomplished something. Because it's interesting for me because I mentioned this when I was speaking a little bit earlier. I've had, and again, I always preface by saying this is something I do because I love it.
Yeah,
I get a lot of joy out of it. I've gotten some big guests on the show, and you're always like, oh, maybe this will be the one, like more views, closely get more views, but there hasn't really been one to like crack like that.
Yeah.
And so from your perspective, when you do get that one show that gets all the press, goes as well as you wanted, I can only imagine what that moment feels like.
It felt good. The agents that weren't hiring me, They were
They're
calling.
reaching out.
Just to get not really calling, just to get tickets, and they're like, I was told by like my friends who were assistants, like, you guys are being talked about in the comedy meeting, which really felt good. And
Wow.
but now I'm already, it's sort of me being like constantly I'm already anxious now. What's the hype going to be for year two? Because I don't expect to get that kind of press, but is the hype going to be the same? Or so just
I think so.
trying to.
I think so. And that's such a hard thing to create.
Mhm.
That, again, the name is perfect. Underground, Overground.
Yeah.
It is very much word of mouth.
Yeah.
That is the only way you spread it. And it's something that even just from being there that night, the way people talk about how hard it is to get the tickets, I think you've been able to achieve that.
I still believe word of mouth is everything.
Yeah.
A friend telling a friend they had a good time goes further than anything.
Which is why any conversation I'm in, I'm like, have you heard of the podcast Go With The Flow?
I love that.
And I would say, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Because, yeah, word of mouth is, I agree,
Yeah.
one of the most special things that you can do. So then back to the comedians.
Mhm.
So you've had some big names. You work with some, I was going to say startup comedians,
Yeah.
up and coming
Yeah, yeah.
comedians. That's the term I was looking for. When it comes to the more up and coming comedians, how do you go about selecting who comes on?
Yeah, so I think what differentiates ourselves from other independent shows, respectfully, is that there's a lot of comic-run independent shows. And I think when you're comic producing a show, there's a lot of politics. You're booking a friend so you can get booked on their show. And the level of quality is maybe not there. And you're worrying about your performance rather than the little things that go into making a good show. So when in terms of like booking shows, I don't have to worry about, it's not a spot for a spot. So I'm going to shows all the time, and we don't really take referrals too much. And that's why I spend most of my nights. And now comedy's a small community. I've done over 100 shows, reputation, and then just, that's how and then DMing. That's the great thing about social media.
Who are the two-part question? You mentioned David Tell's your favorite comedian. So I'm curious also about some of your other favorite comedians. Just your favorite comedians. They might not even be good for Underground Overground, but just your favorite comedians. And then who are some of the dream comedians to get to perform? And I think I'd asked you this when I met you that first night. So I think I might know who some of your answers are. But tell the people.
Okay, I'll start with my favorite comedians that I've worked with, and then I'll go into the dream comedians who are great, who I hope to have. Mark Norman, he's a mensch. He just got a Netflix special. He's fantastic. Another guy in New York who's from Chicago, doesn't have social media. This guy named Ethan Simmons Patterson from Chicago. He's also a nurse part-time, or he was. I'm not sure. He's like a comic in a way, because I think if he had social media, he'd be way bigger. Phil Hanley gives a lot of love early on. Marcelo Hernandez just got SNL recently. He's a killer. There's so many one number I don't know, which I would love to figure out, is how many different comics we work with.
You've worked with? You guys don't have like an Excel spreadsheet?
I do. I just have to count it.
Okay, send it my way. I'll make it right now.
Sherrod. Then there's Maddie Weiner, who's an up-and-coming star, I truly believe. Jessica Kirsten is like a vet in the industry who really incredible. I can go on and on. Dream comics I would want to work with in New York are Shane Gillis, who I think is ascending into top 5 territory.
Yeah, I think he just opened for. Isn't he opening for Chappelle?
Exactly.
At MSG? Yeah.
It's just, he's unbelievable. And then there's a comedian named Godfrey.
Godfrey.
Who's in Soul Plane.
I feel like he's been on Brilliant Idiots before.
He could have been.
Hold on. Okay.
His impersonations and accents, like the way he knows the craft, he makes me cry every time.
Yes, Godfrey. He has been on Brilliant Idiots. Very funny. Yes.
Other stars that we're trying to work with in New York. I guess like any of the big names with the past to New York, because you know what my mentality is with, like, I've seen Chris Rock a bunch. He's always in Soho. He doesn't really say hi, but
come on, Chris, say hi.
As I truly feel, and it's a blind confidence that one day I'm gonna work with these guys.
Yeah, I love everything about this, because that's the exact same way I am about this fucking podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not worried. Joe Rogan had his podcast for maybe he started that podcast in 2009. He's done it for a long time.
And I know I am a big fan of Joe. I don't even listen to his podcast that much, and I know that could be controversial.
I know. I know, but I'm on the exact same page.
He started smoking weed with his boys.
And now it's the biggest podcast in the world that anyone wants to be on. The single biggest platform in the world.
And when he did UFC, he was just getting his flight. He just said, pay for my flight.
He has the dream job.
And he's doing what you love.
And commentates for his favorite sport in the world. He has a good, but yeah, so he started many years ago, just him and his boys
Yeah.
smoking weed, like you said. Now it's the biggest podcast in the world.
And now he has
I-
responsibility, but
Exactly, and a lot more comes
Yeah.
with that. But I'm the same way where it's like I'm 2 years into this. If I do this I'm gonna keep doing it as
Yeah.
long as I can find people to come on the show. You're gonna get episodes of Go with the Flow, and I truly believe that one day it'll get to that point where I will also work with any.
do you have one dream guest though? Like
I have a few dream guests.
one that you feel like, but not one that's like a dream, but like one that you feel it's actually a grasp.
Attainable?
Yeah, you could feel it.
See, here's my thing. I might not. I think I might just be an unrealistic person because
That's good. Yeah,
I think everything is
Mhm.
within reach.
Who's this new podcast that's blowing up? This girl.
Oh, Bobby
Yeah.
Bobby Altoff, the industry plant. No, I'm kidding.
I've heard the rumors.
But exactly, she had Drake be her second guest. She did tell the story, and she was big on TikTok
Oh, okay, gotcha.
beforehand. She was paying people to come on, and then having people like DM her to come on the show. She had a funny clip with Funny Marco. Drake liked the pay,
And that was how.
and then that's how she got her on. So she isn't like actually an industry plant. But to answer your question, one that I think is attainable. I mean, there's no. I don't. The within grasp part makes. I think so. I'll just say I think everything's within grasp.
Yeah.
So I think the dream is JC.
JC.
Jay-Z.
Oh shit,
Jay-Z.
JC. Okay.
Jay-Z. Not that when you say within grasp, I'm like, I literally truly believe anything's within grasp.
Yeah.
I don't know what rooms I might be in. You never know.
know.
But 3 dream guests, Jay-Z, Charlamagne the God.
Charlamagne would be awesome.
He's my favorite podcaster, favorite radio host. He's like the
Yeah.
guy. He's recorded in the studios before. I'm like, I keep hoping
You
to
can feel the energy.
run into him one day. Honestly, him and Andrew Schultz at the same time. That would be mad. To be a
Okay.
guest on The Brilliant Idiots or to go on The Breakfast Club, those are like dreams. And then Kevin Hart.
Kevin, yeah, of course.
And then the ones I say for like, because I started this Princeton specific and Princeton focus, and I've said this before on here, Jeff Bezos and Michelle Obama. Those are the 2 Princeton guests that I'm like, one day, gonna make that happen.
And I don't want to talk too much about your job, but I'm just curious about where, like, do you think that could help you if you go really high in the finance route, like you're moving horizontally that way?
Yeah, honestly, yes, I think so. I think so. I think that's one way
Yeah.
to do it. That's not the way I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, but that is one way because you do see some people. Excuse me. When you become high up in your industry, you do become that well connected.
Yeah.
So that is a possibility, but I don't think that's the route that
Fair.
I'm gonna take. But yeah, I just love the idea. I don't even know how we got here, but just the idea of dreaming big, manifesting. Oh, because you were saying
Just knowing
any
that
podcast is gonna end up or any comedian you believe you're gonna end
Yeah.
up working with.
And I think
them
Katz can
one
be
day.
that vehicle, and Katz is my eyes set, and I tell about these. I'm not sure that's quite like dream venues that we have lined up. Additionally,
Oh, that was a question. Did I even ask that?
No.
It's on there.
oh, beautiful.
What dream other dream venues in Manhattan?
The dream ones I'm bringing out there is Empire State Building.
Okay.
That's a big dream. Like just near the Edge. You know the Edge.
The Edge, yeah.
Hudson Yards. Kleinfeld Bridal Shop. What's another one? Those are the big 3 right now, I would say. Is there another one that I'm leaving out? I don't know when these are going to happen, but these are definitely ideas that we're trying to really work towards and make it happen.
And did you say when we met the first time that you have something planned with Andrew Schultz?
Andrew Schultz. The only thing we have loosely planned with Andrew Schultz, but he's going on an international tour, is me and Andrew Schultz went to the same elementary school,
Ah,
PS6, and that's where I met Ethan on kindergarten on the chess team.
there you go.
Lenny Kravitz went there. JD Salinger went there. Iconic PS6. Shout out.
There you go. And
So
now
we
David
would-
Levine.
I want to be on that website in the Wikipedia. But the thing was, we would do a show in the auditorium where charity give back for the school,
Mhm.
and he would be the headliner, and he loved it for the nostalgic value.
Okay.
It's just finding a date. It would have to be during the week 'cause he's touring, and we had something tentative for October, but God bless him, we booked a huge international tour, so it's gonna be delayed a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. He's by far he's my favorite comedian by far.
He's the man.
Somewhere in the show right now, Infamous
him.
Store. I've only been to 2. Actually went to the like 2 weeks before I went to you guys' show. I
Mhm.
went to my first like comedy show in New York City.
Where?
Greenwich Village Comedy Store.
And he was there?
No. I
Oh.
was no. This
Yeah,
is separate. I was gonna
Okay.
get into that.
Yeah.
So went to your show, went to a different one before that. But outside of those 2, which were both within the last like 3 months,
Yeah.
have only been to 2 comedy shows, and both have been Andrew Schultz. One was in
Okay.
New Brunswick, one was in Philly. So
You see, so is Hour.
Oh yeah, I saw his
It
hours,
was
which
great. He's the man.
yeah, insane.
And he just he's someone like, and the best advice I've ever gotten. We did a show at Down Dog, which is a start yoga startup company. They're not
Mhm.
they're successful now. It's like the app. They really blew up during the pandemic. And one of the advices the owner gave, because they worked and lived out of this townhouse in Chelsea. And one of the advice the guy gave me, which I always say, Carlos, is just put your head down mentality. You're gonna look back in 2, 3 years and look how far you came. And one of the things he misses most, because now they're more established, is like I love that I don't know phase. Where can this go? And
Mhm.
I think we're in the same boat. Like, what can this lead to?
Yeah,
Because like once you're established or you have a steady job, or it's like every day just making sure it doesn't go awry,
yeah.
you sort of miss that excitement. So head down mentality, the I don't know phase, appreciate how great this is, the highs and lows, and then
Doesn't always feel that great, you know. But
oh,
I
believe me.
yeah.
But when it's steady, he says he misses it. So
And so initially, the shows were only Manhattan. You did a show in the Hamptons recently,
yes.
and now you have an upcoming show in Chicago.
And we did one in Brooklyn. If you could tell
Oh,
you
you want to
that,
Brooklyn?
we had one in Brooklyn, one show, and we're gonna try and do another one.
Okay, I guess I can. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. But why was it the time to expand outside of the tri-state area? And why was Chicago the first
Yeah, there's
location?
few. So the dream is we're gonna find these Katz Deli equivalents all over the country, because every place has a heart and soul small business where when you say the venue, holy shit, you're doing a show there. And then the reason why Chicago is Ethan and all of his brothers, they actually all went to U Chicago. So there's a Chicago base. I have a cousin in Chicago. I have like one or two friends who are from there. And then our intern, who I hope I can make our full hire next year, be the first person we like full time hire.
That's another question, but finish it, and then I was sorry.
He's going to be a senior at U Chicago.
Okay,
What's funny about our production is that our whole team is pretty much U Chicago and Syracuse.
love it.
Um, and yeah, so just between that network and Chicago being it's drivable, which is great. We're driving there.
Oh, is Chicago though? I mean,
Yeah, it's about 12 hours.
anything on the continental U.S. is
Yeah,
technically drivable, but okay.
And they felt comfortable in the city. We found a venue that said yes. We did try LA once or twice, and I have my thoughts on LA.
Going to LA on Thursday. I could
Really?
help you scout out some venues. Yeah,
Please, yeah. I feel like there's just a lot. And listen, I lived in LA for a year and it was through school, and it was the greatest time of my life. But yeah, we weren't able to pull it together. But Chicago, everything came together. We're doing the Wiener Circle, which is like supposedly this drunk. They curse at you when you order. That has personality.
it's funny because when I was on your Instagram, I saw some of the like news stories about it. So
Yeah.
that's why I have a good idea of it now.
And we just wanted a place where people say, "Holy shit!" And listen, selling tickets out for that show is going to be interesting. Well, the first push was good. It's not sold out yet, but I'm very confident. It's still a month away.
I'm gonna say shows what? It's on September
20th.
20th.
Wednesday, September 20th.
I think this episode might come out. It's gonna come out right before it. Actually, let me see. Wait, no, I'm still listening. I'm just It's gonna come out.
If you hear this episode,
It's coming out. This episode's coming out on the 18th of September, so 2 days before. So
I'm hoping we're sold out by then. But if you
I
live in
hope-
Chicago and you hear this episode, Wiener Circle Comedy.uo, you can buy tickets there.
there you go.
Yeah. So, but that's also a challenge. My dream is, and I feel like I want to start working in a city where they have some local talent.
Mhm.
So there's like I've been recommended like 5 names that are really talented. I'm only working with 2 local people, and then I'm flying out 3 New York comics.
You're flying out. Oh, wow. Okay, which is more into the business side of things, which
Yeah.
are some questions I had about. You just mentioned you had an intern. How big is the team? How big is the operation that makes this thing happen?
Before I answer that question, I'm curious. I sort of give some hints. From your perspective, how big did you think our team was?
Based on the show that I want.
First other show you went to, just from doing research from the outside, did you have an inkling of like what you?
The way that it seems from the outside is that it's just you and Ethan running the show, and then you might have some people day of like actually physically move stuff in and
Okay,
out.
yeah.
I mean, no, you had some people selling the. Okay, let me rethink this. Go in. You were at the door. There were 2 people selling drinks.
No selling, it's open bar.
Open.
We
Oh yeah,
don't
you're
sell
right.
alcohol.
Which I love. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
Open bar, which I love that
Mhm.
aspect of it too. 2 people at the bar. Someone taking pictures. Okay, I'm gonna say it's a team of 6 people. Is my.
Yeah, and that's accurate. So me and Ethan, we're doing this full time comedy, baby. And then we have Ross, who's our intern. But really people who are part of the team who make this show run, and they're absolutely amazing, is Will DeVito, Will on Film on Instagram, who I went to Syracuse with.
Shout out, Will.
He's through underground shows in college,
Nice.
which I would perform on. And they were great in basements, packed it together. So illegal. like $3 drink at this little bar. It was amazing. Some of my highlights at school, and he's our cameraman. And I'm not sure how much he's a film student, but I'm not sure how much like photography, media background he had before shooting our shows. And he's just so talented and hardworking. So Will DeVito
Does he make the clips also?
now he outsources them.
Okay.
Like he has from the company he used to work at, he has like someone who we pay like to edit per clip, but he does that. The cool thing is he's working on a Katz documentary, which I can talk about that coming together, and that's gonna be coming out. We're gonna be doing screenings, which I'll invite you to. September 26th is the first one for like friends in industry, just about how that whole night came together. Pretty much a more extensive video capturing of what we were talking about
Awesome.
and how the chaos. But and then there's Beth Palumbo, who I went to Syracuse with, who I met at the LA program. They both have full-time. Will had a full-time job, recently left, but he's doing a ton of freelance work. Beth works at a company, and she does a lot of our marketing, makes the decks for us, part-time. And then we have Arhan, who's a high school friend of mine, who recently left a talent agency, and he really helps with the sponsorship sides.
Okay.
So like the show you went to, we didn't have a sponsor at that show, but like the sponsor we've had Malibu Jameson. He's been the guy bringing those in.
Wow. Okay. So it's a well-oiled machine. Yeah, you guys got something cool. It's cool to
Pitching you on the vision. It's like be a part of something special and just know that we're turning into something special. That's the belief, and grow with us.
And much earlier in the podcast, you mentioned that the initial goal was just to be breaking even.
Yeah.
I assume you guys are doing a little more than breaking even.
Yeah, listen, now we profit, but the main thing is like, how do we put it into the show? And now this is the first year we started paying ourselves.
Okay.
First 2 years, Ethan was pre-med and doing the, working at the dental offices. I had a dog walking business. I also coached middle school basketball.
Okay.
Which is one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life.
That sounds like the goal. One day, I can't wait to have kids. I want to coach all their sports teams.
Are you going to be a screamer?
Am I going to be a screamer? Oh, of course.
I love it. Oh, my God.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah. So, coaching middle school basketball. But now we're finally able to pay ourselves a little bit and definitely eases some stress. Because I was living at home until I graduated 2 years ago. I was living at home for the first year. Yeah, and Ethan moved out like a year ago as well. So,
which is that sacrifice that you make for something to take off. And
it's funny, people think about sacrifice. I feel like some people hear sacrifice such a big word, but when you love what you like, I don't even think about it as like the crazy shit we do. Just whatever needs to happen.
Yeah,
show must go on.
Do what you got to do. I love that. I love that. I love everything about this. And one of my last questions for you is, what do you see? Not an end goal, but what do you see as the potential for Underground Overground? Or are we going to be doing shows in Lagos, Nigeria? We're going to be doing shows in London, England. What do you see as the ultimate goal for this?
With my good friend in Nigeria, that is a dream one day. So the dream is to do, make this, I think first domestically all over the country, and then maybe like English-speaking countries. Like definitely, I think London and Canada are definitely attainable. England, but the goal, it's scary because every year we sort of, we've been blessed. We set goals. I'm big on writing out goals. And the beginning of every year, we set out goals for how much are we going to profit, the amount of tickets we're going to sell. And we've been exceeding them every year, which is a great feeling.
IPO one day. I want to invest.
IPO. Yeah, so shows all over, a special. The dream is I'm going to shoot a Katz Deli special.
Wow.
That's the big dream. And I don't want it to just be another special that you see on Netflix and lose the algorithm. It's going to be with the right guest. My dream. Adam Sandler.
Adam, you heard it here first.
Someone of his caliber.
Adam's secretly a listener of Go With The Flow. He reaches out after.
But someone of his caliber, someone who matches the wall Katz Deli. Someone who's been around, a legend of his craft, and finding iconic institutions all over. And then I really don't know. We are dabbling into other things. We have shows coming up where we're working with chefs now. We're doing like food before, like small bites before the show. We're trying to maybe get magicians to come to the show, and then the dream is if we're doing big after party, we'll make Chappelle. Why he's been a genius from the beginning, besides his comedy, is since he was young, he always had a musical act at the end of a show, and I believe the synergy is there. So my dream is 5 years from now, we're doing a show at a big venue. Last act, Drake. Drake does a song or two. He can do one song, get the hell out.
Manifested, which is exactly what Chappelle just did, too.
Exactly. Travis came in and got out.
And then I think whatever show, I was just listening to a podcast where they talked about this. But yeah, Travis did it. And then one show Burna Boy was at and also did a few songs. And I
don't want to waste, I understand how their time is valuable. So come in, do your song. You can hang out, which I'd love. If you need to leave, leave. But that is the dream where I want people to lose. Our shows are an event, they're not just a show. It's an experience. You're coming for the whole thing. That's why we try to add a food element or let you hang out after. Sorry. Like when you came to the show, you felt like,
We hung out. Yeah, we hung. Even it was a work night, which I'm trying to do more during the week. So it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. We hung out for a little bit after. Spoke to
exactly.
you for a little bit.
We're not rushing you out like a traditional comedy club 'cause the next
Exactly.
show's happening. So
Yeah.
make it very relaxed and it's young.
And so, is there ever because in my mind, the way that it is right now is just intimate venues, but you
Yeah.
just mentioned that it's a stadium. So are you
I'm
eventually
not trying to
to
estate.
oh,
No. It would just be a show. Like I think there's spaces like Katz can hold 300. I think there's
mhm.
probably spaces where we can do that are out there that probably for 400 or 500.
Which
Still
even is
intimate.
still intimate.
Still
Exactly.
intimate.
4 or
Exactly.
500 is still intimate when you think in the grand scheme of arenas and stadiums. So 500 is definitely still intimate.
Because we have about one other the Brooklyn venue can hold about 220,
Okay.
which is just great. So
Gotcha.
I don't
Awesome.
know. I don't know what we're gonna find.
I have loved every second of this podcast.
Thank you.
We are going to come to the music segment,
Beautiful.
the music identity segment. Do you have your songs?
I think I can remember all of them. off the
Okay,
top.
amazing. So, for anyone who's a new listener or first time listening, I asked my guests, it's a one recurring segment on the show.
Yeah.
Ask my guests to come with 5 songs that describe who they are as a person. I leave it very open ended and open for interpretation because I like to see the different ways in which people will take it. So, your 5 songs, please. And so, say the song and say why you chose it.
All right. First song, School Spirit by Kanye West.
Great song.
As someone who wasn't happy in school the first 2 years, I just felt something that's like that small mind, small pond mentality, think big. I just felt like restricted there. So I would listen to him for inspiration. I didn't drop out, but I would listen to him. And he had that iconic line where it's like the valedictorian was a waiter. I don't know the exact line right now, but that really connected with me. So just his view on college. The next song, should I just go right into the next one?
Yeah, you just keep going. Yeah.
The next song is Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi. That is just probably the first song I remember when I heard it for the first time. I was in a hotel room on a basketball trip. In the winter, it was like February, winter basketball trip. And first song I think I learned all the words to. And Kid Cudi's one of my favorite artists.
Crush a bit, little bit, roll it up, take it. Great song, great song.
Driving drunk. That's probably my favorite song. Or just like can relax me. I really want to see if I can remember all 5. This is an interesting one. I'm curious if you heard of this artist. Frankie Lyman, Little Bitty Pretty One.
Not heard of the song or
Frankie
artist.
Lyman is the one who inspired Michael Jackson and Jackson 5.
Okay.
He's like a talented 13-year-old, 12-year-old on air. And they have like the chorus of the song is like and like I always hear it in commercials. I probably fucked up the beat to it, but it's just like I always play if I'm humming a song, I'm always humming that song. And that artist is one of my favorite. My dad was a lot older, so I actually I didn't really grow up with 80s and 90s music. I grew up with 60s, 50s, 60s music.
Wow.
Okay, that's 3, right?
Yes.
4, New York State of Mind by Nas, just because there's one line, sleep is the cousin of death. And that is something my whole life I've never been a good sleeper. I would not claim that I'm an insomniac. I just always been on a weird calendar. That's why I think comedy helps me, is the shows are popping from 7 to 1 a.m. And that's where I feel like I'm at night.
It's prime time for you.
Prime time. And the last one is
5th and final, Bring It Home.
Empire State of Mind, being from New York. But this is cheesy. Why? Dwayne Wade, I idolized as a kid. And in that song, if Jesus playing LeBron, I'm playing Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
And ever since that, when I first heard that song, I would scream his name, and I've always felt a deep connection there.
One thing about that song is it's a great song, and I can't even imagine what it's like for you living in New York your whole life and being from New York. Even as someone who never lived here until intern summer 2021, I remember the first time I was out and that song comes on, you are yelling it with your whole chest. You feel like you are truly living a New York moment right there.
And it makes me proud when I'm out of town and just for to connect my favorite player with my city.
It's just perfect. Awesome. Wow. First of all, thank you for coming on. From literally just me approaching you at the end of the show, DMing you, giving me your number.
I like hustlers and people who follow through.
That's one thing about me. I'm gonna follow through to the point that it's annoying, but I will follow through. That's how I get people on here. That's how I keep this things going. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Really appreciated it. Really enjoyed this episode. Think it's one that people will enjoy also.
Oh yeah.
Love what y'all are doing. Wishing you all the success in the world. And yeah, I love to see people have an idea execute it, make it happen, and then just scale it from there. And so, yeah, this has been an inspiring episode, a very fun episode. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Spread love. Thank you.
Do you have any final words for the people?
No, you're the first person to really have me on a podcast, so thank you.
When you make it big, when we're both big, when
Yeah.
I'm a massive podcast and you're a massive comedy show,
Yeah.
we're gonna look back at this and be like, look where we started. But thank you everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Go with the Flow.